So it's been about 7 years, just over 7 years since my last video on this channel. I fully intended to do regular video logs, and to be honest, it's that long ago, I can't really remember why it never happened. I mean, we're now in November 2020, and we're at a situation where I've been under the weight management team actively pursuing weight loss surgery as far as I can remember since 2017. Now, in the first video on the channel, it was 2013, and I'd been referred to the healthy weight team. And I remember having to do various weight loss programs. I was referred at various times, and I don't know what the timelines were because I can't remember, it's that far long ago. But I was referred to Weight Watchers to try and help me lose weight. I was referred to Slimming World to help me try and lose weight. I had referrals for exercise, referrals to go to the gym, things like that. Those always came to nothing, because as soon as when they ask you if you've got any pre-existing health conditions, and I rattle off a great big long list of things, they basically wanted me to sit in a recumbent bicycle and do that for half an hour. And after the period of time for the referral ended, which was like 6 weeks or something, they then expected me to pay for it, which, something like 50 quid a month or whatever for a gym membership. I can't remember what it was. Probably talking out my what's it for the price, but I remember thinking at the time, I'm not paying that money just to come here and sit on a bike when I could do that at home. So I had sort of various successes with Weight Watchers and Slimming World, as I have in the past when I've gone to groups like that. I have successfully lost weight, but as is the story with a lot of people who struggle with their weight throughout their life, you lose a lot of weight, and then over time the weight comes back on and more. So I got to the stage where I was again, I've probably said it before, the heaviest I've ever been, and it just got to, ridiculous. So I was adamant with the healthy weight team or the weight management team. I can't remember names. It's all through the National Health Service anyway. I was adamant that I wanted weight loss surgery. So I was eventually put on the path and had to attend various groups and meetings and psychology appointments and things like that, counselling sessions, regular exercise sessions, which were good because they were challenging but also considerate of my health conditions. So there was actually quite a lot of seated exercise and walking, and there was quite a few people in similar situation to me who have also got health conditions that limit mobility and things. So it was nice to be in a group working out to the extent that we could work out, which was better than being sat at home doing nothing. So it was helpful. So there was an exercise class every week, and then every other week there was also a nutrition class, and we would also get weighed every other week. So the time that nutrition class was on, you wouldn't get weighed, and the next week when nutrition class wasn't on, you would get weighed. We started off by being weighed every week, but the room where we did the nutrition class in the sports centre was too small for the amount of people, and it was just really difficult to do the weighing as well. And part of the process that we have to go through with this particular service is there's a monthly session that happens at Salford Royal Hospital, where you have to go and meet or listen to talks from bariatric surgeons or other people involved in the service. So bariatric nurses, the nutrition team, and also there's talks by previous or people who've had weight loss surgery through the service. And obviously that's an opportunity to ask questions. And part of the requirement to have surgery is that you have attended 3 or 4 of those. I can't remember exactly whether it's 3 or 4. So you have to have gone to the stipulated number of those sessions in order to qualify for surgery. So the service is really good, to be fair. You have your support at local level, and I have to say that my local team, from what I've discussed with other people at the Salford group, my local team do more than a lot of other of the local teams, where you're just left to it and expected to get on with it and lose weight. At least my local team provide the counselling and the exercise groups and nutrition and, you know, a support network. There's also a Facebook group. So that's all been really helpful. And I am very appreciative of that, because I am aware that not everybody has access to that. And being the kind of person that I am, I don't know that I would have done as well if I'd just have been expected to go to the Salford groups and lose the weight myself in between. Sorry, I just had to change hands. I'm using my phone. So, yeah, I think on my weigh-in sheet, the first weigh-in is September 2017. So between 2013 and 2017, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what happened. I can't remember. I didn't do any video logging. So my intentions, of being able to look back and see what my full journey was, just didn't work because I didn't do it. However, we are now in the situation where we're in 2020. Anybody who's around at this moment in time, or who, if we're looking back in the future, who lived through this time, knows what's going on in the world with the global COVID pandemic. So actually I had various appointments towards the end of last year, the end of 2019, when things started to hot up. I was given the funding to go forward with my surgery. So my funding was confirmed, and I had various appointments, and I went to see another psychological. I went to have a psychological evaluation with a psychologist different to the psychologist that I'd been seeing for sessions at my local NHS. If you're not from the UK, you might not understand the NHS system in the UK, but it is a National Health Service. That's what NHS stands for. But it's run locally, if that makes sense. So my area, my local area, my town, is part of a group of towns, NHS services, that are part of the National Health Service, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. So a lot of my meetings and appointments and the groups that I went to were with my NHS team in my local town, but my bariatric team are in the group, in the trust. It's called a trust, which is the group of NHS organisations in the wider area. So whilst I had already had psychological evaluations, psychological appointments, and counselling through my local group, I had to go to the area group for a psychological evaluation. That was at Salford Royal Hospital, and that was in November 2019. As a result of that, I was given the go-ahead from a psychological point of view. So I'd already been given the go-ahead from a surgical point of view, and from a funding point of view. I then got the go-ahead from the psychological point of view, and I was then put on the list for surgery, and I was told it would be around one sec. So I was told that the wait time would be around about 3 months after having been approved. So my appointment was in the November, and I think my approval came through a few weeks later. So it was around the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, that I'd actually secured the funding, been given the surgical go-ahead or the medical go-ahead, and the psychological go-ahead. Now, the surgical go-ahead, for want of a better word, medical go-ahead, was as a result of what's called a 4-in-1 appointment. So again, at Salford Royal Hospital, you go for an appointment and you see the bariatric nurse, you see the nutritionist, you see a medical doctor, and you see the surgeon that's going to be doing your operation. So that's the four in one. So you see 4 professionals at the one appointment, and then you're given the go-ahead pending the psychological evaluation. So I had all that like towards the end of 2019, and was then told that I should expect to have my operation within 3 months, something like that. And then, so I was expecting to go to surgery around about March, April 2020. Now, can we all remember what happened in March 2020? Yes, we had a national lockdown in the UK, which meant that everything was cancelled. Like, life stopped, nothing went ahead, you had to lock yourself in your house. So, yeah, that really put a kibosh on my weight loss surgery, which was really unfortunate. Unfortunate in a lot of ways because, you know, we're on lockdown. You're stuck at home. When you're the kind of person that gains weight, that struggles with food, you know, there's anxiety associated with this virus, whatever it is. And what do we do when we're anxious? We eat. What can't we do because we're stuck at home? We can't go to our exercise classes. So yes, I did put on weight. And obviously one of the conditions of actually being able to have the operation is that you don't gain weight. You've been expected through the process to have shown that you can lose weight, you know, to evidence that you've got a commitment to the process. And if you gain any of that weight back, you know, it's frowned upon and it can jeopardize you being able to have the surgery. So it was a really difficult time. It's also a difficult time because there's, you know, some suggestion that COVID is actually more serious for people who are overweight, amongst, you know, other people that are susceptible to it or who have worse outcomes if they catch it. So having the surgery cancelled wasn't good, you know, potentially in terms of my future life, longevity, if I was to catch it. So that happened in March. We were then in a state of limbo because all surgery was cancelled. Didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't know whether it was going to happen at all. Now, you know, does that mean we start back where we left off when the lockdown finishes? Obviously, there's going to be backlogs. Hospitals have to get back to some sense of normality at some point. But we just didn't know when that was going to be. So anyway, we had to deal with the lockdown. And then around about July, I think it was, the lockdown was eased, and hospitals started getting back to doing appointments, albeit telephone appointments and things like that. And I got a phone call. Was it a phone call or an email? I think it might have been an email to start with. I got an email with a questionnaire asking for, it was like a, what's the word? Like an opinion, was it not? Not an opinion, but a sort of like how do you feel about certain things? And they were trying to gauge whether or not they should start up the service again, even though COVID is still happening. So asking how you'd been getting on during lockdown. Did you still want to go ahead with your operation, even though COVID was still an ongoing issue? Had you gained any weight during lockdown? That kind of thing. So I've completed the questionnaire, and I said yes, I did want to go ahead with the operation, even though COVID was still ongoing. That resulted in then me receiving a phone call to kick the ball rolling for my surgery again. So I was given a date. Well, to start off with, I was given 2 potential dates. I was told my surgery would either be the 1st or the 15th of November, depending on when they could schedule everything in. So I ended up getting a date for the 15th of November 2020, and it's now the, hang on a minute, what date is it? It's now the 7th, so it's just over a week away, a week until my surgery, and I've had my preoperative assessments. So my first preoperative assessment was with the nutritionalist at the hospital that I'm going to have the surgery. So although I'm under Salford Royal, my surgery, which I'm having the Reux on Y Gastric Bypass operation, and although I'm having it done through Salford Royal Hospital, they've actually outsourced it, and I'm going to be having the operation at the Spire, Manchester, which is in Didsbury, I think it is, in Manchester. So all my preoperative appointments have been with the Spire. So my first appointment was a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago maybe, which was over the phone. It was with, trying to think now, there was 2 people I spoke to. There was like the nurse, bariatric nurse, who I spoke to, and then I had a second phone call with the nutritionalist. And then at the end of last week, I had to go into the hospital because I was having blood tests. So obviously they're trying to limit the amount of visits to places during COVID. So the first appointment was over the phone so that I didn't have to go into the hospital. The second appointment was blood tests. So obviously you can't take blood over the phone. So I had to go in. And during that time I was weighed. They took my height, my blood pressure. They did an ECG, and they took MRSA swab so that was nose and groin, so both nostrils, left and right groin. And what else was there? I think that was it. And the bloods. So they took 3 vials of blood. I don't know what for. But I haven't had anything come back to say there's any problem as a result of those. Not so far anyway, touch wood. And my next appointment is on the 11th. So 4 days before my operation is due, I have to go back to the hospital for a COVID test. Now, also what I've had to do prior to the appointment for the surgery is I've had to self-isolate. So my blood test appointment was before I started self-isolating. I started self-isolating from the 1st of November 2020. So basically 2 weeks before my surgery date. And the only time I'm allowed out during this self-isolation is to actually go to the hospital for the COVID test. So I've been stuck at home. And then my self-isolation started on the 1st of November, and then the UK went back into national lockdown as of, I think it was the 6th of November. So again, everybody's stuck in, and we're struggling getting shopping and stuff as well, which is awkward because we're self-isolating. We're not allowed to go out. We're not even allowed to go out for shopping. We're supposed to have people bring shopping to us. And the fact that the whole country's gone back into national lockdown means that getting shopping delivered is more difficult again. So, more of a challenge. So that's it. I think that's my sort of latest vague update of the past 7 years, and a more recent update of what's the sort of situation now. So I don't know what my actual measurements are and things at the moment. I'll do some pictures and maybe do an additional video with measurements and photographs of, full body photographs and that, so that I've got a reference, so that I can look back and see the changes, the hopeful changes that take place once I've actually had my surgery. I am, of course, hopeful that nothing else jeopardizes my surgery, because I've been waiting a long time for it. So I just hope for myself that everything goes well. I have to say I am kind of nervous. I'm not the kind of person to look at operations and things. I don't really want to know what's going to happen. I'd rather it was just done. Obviously I understand what's involved. You know, they've shown us pictures in, you know, meetings and stuff that we've had, diagrams, should I say, of what happens in the different appointments. You know, so you get an image of the intestinal tract, and it tells you what happens in a sleeve and what happens in a band and what happens in a bypass and all that. And of course they do tell you what the potential side effects are or what the potential risks are. But other than that, I haven't really wanted to go into it. I'm not particularly interested. I just want to have the operation and, you know, start living my new life. So, yeah, I will hopefully be having my operation in just over a week, and we'll see how we go from there. And I will see you next time, all being well. That is, of course, if I don't die. Bye for now.